Straight out of university, I thought I was going to be a rock star, so there was a slight diversion. I finished university with dreadlocks and a lip ring, and I played bass guitar in a punk rock band. At the same time, I knew that I wanted to. Deep down, I knew that that wasn't where my professional future lay. And a couple of months after leaving university, I got offered a temp job at a consultancy. But for me, going and doing that temp job to work on projects internationally, mainly aid projects around the world, was so important. And it took me to some brilliant places, working on projects mainly for the UK government, but also for charities, sometimes for businesses too. But I always had this sense that working on projects for the government, there were conversations you just couldn't have as a contractor that only people in government could have. And when a job came up at Department for International Development, as it was then, I jumped at it, and that was what I really wanted to do. I joined DFID as a governance advisor to Afghanistan, and that was a brilliant job. Every move's in an armoured vehicle. Every move had to be pre-planned in advance. The route had to be developed by specialist security teams. The rationale for the move had to be strong, because every time you left the compound, you were putting people at risk. That meant, one, the team had to work really effectively, and two, you had to be really sure that what you were going to do was worth that risk. It was quite constrained, but there's a lot of camaraderie. Working alongside the military is a privilege, and seeing how professional those people are and the way they go about their jobs, and enabling everything we did as diplomats and as development professionals. I did another job in DFID in Palestine, again focused on governance, before making the jump over to more diplomatic work in Ukraine, where I was the head of programs for British Embassy Kyiv. Working in Ukraine over Russia's reinvasion is the hardest thing that I have ever done, and I think that I ever will do. It's also the thing that I'm most proud of, and I feel most privileged to have been a part of. My wife just woke me up and she said, "Nick, it started." Diplomat families are the unsung heroes of diplomacy. It's really hard. It's really hard to be a good diplomat and to be a good dad. I'm so grateful to my wife for the support she gives me, and my kids as well. And we ask a lot of them. We do ask a lot of them. When we left Ukraine, my youngest son was born there. We left a few weeks before the invasion, and at that point we didn't really know what scale it would be. So we had about 24 hours notice to leave, and we packed up some stuff. At that point thinking, okay, we'll probably be back here. In the end, my wife and my two kids never went back. They've not been back to Kyiv. I went back to Kyiv in April, May 2022. And I went back to our apartment. I had an hour in the apartment. A British military soldier stood outside the apartment to keep watch, and I had an hour to go and gather up what I could. And I walked in, I opened the door into our kitchen, and the half-drunk cup of coffee that I'd left on the way out was still sitting there. The book that my wife had been reading was still on the bedside table. The toys that my son had been playing with on his playmat were still out on the ground, just 6 months later than after we left. So that was a moment where it really struck me of just what I had asked them to do. But at the same time, that's nothing compared to what our friends and everyone else who had stayed in Ukraine to fight in whatever way was being asked to do. So it takes me back to that point that, yes, it's difficult, but we have the privilege to work on these issues. We have the privilege to try and do what's best for the country, and we have the privilege to help, in this case, our allies at a moment that really defines the future of their country and the rest of Europe. But when I got the job, this job as ambassador to Bishkek, I had a chat with my political officer, a Kyrgyz guy called Askar, and I said, "Oh, anyway, there's lots of horses in Kyrgyzstan. Horseback riding's a big thing. I should probably learn to ride a horse." And I laughed. And he said, "You should learn to ride a horse." So before I went out there, I had one horse riding lesson in Wales, and I was pretty terrified, but he was right, and being able to know at least how to get on a horse when I got there was certainly the best bit of diplomatic advice that I've received. The national sport cockbaroo, which is polo with a dead goat, is still a bit beyond my capabilities, but watching those games and learning how it's played has been a real experience as well. You walk off the plane in Bishkek, and the first thing you see, the city skyline in the distance and the incredible Tian Shan mountain range behind it. And it's the real wow. There's not many places in the world you can go where you don't have a preconception of what it's going to look like. If someone's going to Paris for the first time. You've seen enough films, you've seen enough paintings, you've got an idea in your mind what it's going to look like. And you're holding Paris against that standard. But Kyrgyzstan, and I'd say the Central Asia region in general, is one of the few places in the world that most people from the UK, they don't really have a preconception. They don't really know what to expect. And that means when people go there, you have this now rare experience in the modern age of taking a place as it comes for what it is. And that experience, I think, is what hooked me straight away in that first week. The culture is brilliant. It's a nomadic culture, living in the mountains, being connected with nature, which makes living there really brilliant and fun and great, especially if you love the outdoors. But it's also on the strategic hinge of this new world of geopolitics. There's a land border with China. There's a long history with Russia. It's a landlocked country that has and controls a lot of the water that goes to neighbouring larger countries like Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan. The thing I'm most proud of in the 2.5 years I've been there is helping a Welsh firm called Concrete Canvas to set up their second ever factory in the world in Kyrgyzstan. They produce a synthetic alternative to traditional concrete that's more environmentally friendly, it's quicker to install. And in Kyrgyzstan and across the wider Central Asia region, it has a brilliant use case, rehabilitating dilapidated Soviet-era irrigation canals. The whole of the Central Asia region is crisscrossed with these canals that feed farmland. They're vital to the economy, to food security, and to livelihoods. And by bringing Concrete Canvas's product to Kyrgyzstan at a scale that will be able to serve the rest of the region, we're bringing money and creating jobs in the UK economy, but we're also making it possible to speed up the process of saving water, rehabilitating climate damaged land, and helping to build stability in the region, because water scarcity is only going to get more intense, unfortunately, in Central Asia. Kyrgyzstan has a difficult balancing act, having to live within the reality of Russia being one of its most important partners, but also being very clear that it's an independent state with its own direction. And the UK, like any good friend, wants to make sure that we can offer the Kyrgyz options for economic partnership, for cultural partnerships, and we want to support them in their vision and their journey to be an independent state. So I was born in Solihull in Birmingham, but I moved to Wales when I was 6 months old. I'm proud to be Welsh, I'm a proud Welshman. Growing up in Wales shaped so much about who I am. And when I took the job as ambassador to Bishkek, I knew and felt that there was something in what it is to be Welsh and what Wales brings to the world that would resonate with the people of Kyrgyzstan. And one of the ways we did that was by setting up a partnership between the Welsh Rugby Union and Kyrgyzstan's Rugby Federation. Rugby's really only just getting off the ground in Kyrgyzstan, but it's run by a really brilliant, dedicated professional president of the Rugby Federation, who not long after I arrived contacted me and said, look, we would love to develop this sport here. And I sent an email to the Welsh Rugby Union, not really expecting anything back. I threw in there that I was Welsh, and I'm not joking, within 90 minutes, they emailed back and said, we're in, let's make it happen. And the focus of the partnership over the next 3 years has been, one, on getting the quality of coaching for the men's team up, but most importantly, getting more women into the sport. And the field where it was happening, it just happened to be by the entrance of the university. So anyone coming in and out has to go around this field. And on the first day, there were 7 girls there, girls who played rugby before. They're brilliant and really inspirational. And the next day, the coaches turned up, and there were about 30 girls there who had walked past the day before, and they just said, we don't know what this is, but we want some of it, and we want to get involved in it. And that, I think, has been a real turning point for the sport, for girls in Kyrgyzstan. That whole experience really, I think, shows you why this sort of work is so important. We were bringing together 2 groups of people that in most other circumstances never would have encountered each other. I did a talk at a university in Bishkek titled Punk Rock Diplomacy. And look, to me, this goes back to where everything started for me, in a punk rock band. And when I thought about the thread that's run through my career, from being in and then leaving that band through to being the ambassador, the spirit that stayed with me is this idea that being a diplomat, being an ambassador, is not about the cocktail parties, it's not about the Ferrero Rocher, it's not about the lovely conversations you have, it's about going out and getting stuff done. Getting stuff done for the UK and getting stuff done, in the case of Kyrgyzstan, for the benefit of the country that you're living in. And the way I like to do that is to bring the spirit of punk rock to my job, which to me means getting out, getting your hands dirty, being as comfortable looking at a map on the bonnet of a Land Rover in a rural area, to be as comfortable doing that stuff as you are sitting across a table in a boardroom with a minister or a prime minister talking about the finer details of whatever agreement it is you're negotiating. Fundamentally, it's about going out and making stuff happen for the country. And the spirit of punk rock for me embodies that